Ooh, welcome back. What's up? Thanks for checking in. This is the Victory Podcast. I'm your host, Steve McGrath. And this week, I am pleased to bring you the story of five-time captain of the Buffalo Bills, a man with an 11-year career in the NFL from Paducah, Kentucky, George Wilson. Now, George has this crazy story growing up on a farm, being able to play in the SEC, making the Buffalo Bills, switching from wide receiver to safety, his entire journey. He goes over all of it. It's a can't miss conversation, I promise you that. And before we get into it, as always, I need to remind you all that we are brought to you by Team Builder. Now, Team Builder works with over 500 high school football programs nationwide, and they help you improve the performance of your weight room. So go check out the website. You're going to get a free gift if you use the promo code VICTORY. So check it out, see what they're all about. And now, without any further ado, here is my conversation with George Wilson. One, boom, on the line. I am pleased to welcome Paducah, Kentucky's own Mr. George Wilson, the Buffalo Bills legend. How are you doing today, George?
Hey, I'm doing well, Steve. How you doing this morning?
I am phenomenal after you helped work through a little bit of an internet situation on my end. Um, of course, you're wearing the Legends community shirt, George. You are a legend, and not just a former player, but what you did with your time in Buffalo. I mean, I vividly remember you playing growing up, watching the New England Patriots. What has it been like for you? Just the NFL 100, their 100th year anniversary. Are the Bills doing anything? Is the league doing anything special where they're like having you guys come together and really sort of celebrate this year?
Well, we just this past weekend when the Bills played the Patriots in Orchard Park, they had a bunch of their former players come in. We had a block party and engaged with a lot of the Buffalo fans, the Bills Mafia. Had a great time taking pictures and doing autographs, doing that. We also did a Legends Gala, where a lot of the former players were able to engage with, a lot of the old, front office staff, the training staff, and people that belong to the organization, being able to interact with them. They hosted us at the game last Sunday. Was able to go down on the field and introduce the groups by the decade. And it was my first time back on the field, since I retired. It was actually my first game since I retired. So a bunch of different emotions flowing. I can honestly say, in the 5 years that I've left the game, that was the first time that I can say I missed it and I wanted to be back out there. And so it was kind of bittersweet, being able to see it and touch it, but not really do it and engage in it. But I still appreciated the moment to be back in that realm, to be back before the fans, to hear the crowd, but also to be able to engage with former teammates, see where they are in their lives and with their families and everything. And so the Bills did a great job of reaching out to us and getting us all coming back. And I'll just say this: my first time going back. I look forward to going again next year. And unless I have any conflict or whatnot, I'll be attending each and every year. I just think it's a great opportunity to be able to show my family. I have a 7-year-old son, so I plan to take him back in the future to be able to show him, where Daddy got started at and where I made a name for myself, and be able to help give him some perspective of why life is the way it is for him. So, but
Awesome.
yeah, I had a great time.
That's so cool. And not that you necessarily like the outcome of the game when, the Bills aren't coming out on top, but what do you think of the team today? Because they are defense first, which I'm sure you can appreciate, but with Josh Allen in the future, I mean, this Bills team for the first time, and they've been building to this, but I mean, they have a legitimate potential to push for the wild card this year, and who knows next year? Are they, as Brady kind of dips down in age and finally will have to retire at some point? Are the Bills primed to take over?
I definitely think they are. The way they've built their team to be able to stop teams from scoring. Anytime you can do that, you'll have a chance to win consistently. And they've shown through the first quarter of the season that they're more than capable of slowing down the opponent's offense. And so now it's more or less, the offense is job to be able to manage that situation and to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that the defense present them with, and be able to put the ball in the end zone. As good as the Buffalo defense played last week, the Patriots defense played equally well and took advantage of the opportunities that Josh Allen and the offense gave them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the offense seems like they're close. They need to evolve a little bit more to get what that defense is. But I mean, they're knocking right on the door.
Yeah, they're right there on the cusp of breaking through, and I think any offensive production as far as points go is going to increase their chances of winning and having continued success. With a young quarterback, you're going to have that learning curve, and he has to just learn to take what the defense gives you and not try to force the balls. Like some of his throws were forced throws and ended up being, interceptions. But he'll learn from that, and they'll grow from that, and they'll just have to be able to, like I said, take better care of the ball and be able to take more advantage of the opportunities that they get, in field position and when they get down in the red zone and having scoring opportunities.
Definitely. Now, George, what I wanted to do is sort of take it back. We're talking about the Bills today, but I want to talk about you specifically in how you even ended up on this path that, for us to have this conversation today. In high school, right? My notes show that you were a football, basketball, track, baseball guy, obviously very talented athlete, and you grew up on a farm too, which I don't know how many people know about, but just being a young kid, how did football becoming a vehicle for you to really pursue, just how did this whole thing even start?
Yeah, well, growing up, my mom, I'm one of three for my mom, and we're all athletes. But my mom just had a perspective on life that if you don't have any idle time, you don't have time to get in trouble or be distracted or about what life brings your way. And so when we weren't in school, she involved us in sports, and she was there to support us, each and every game, each and every day. And so we played basketball and football and baseball and competed in track and field. And so she didn't force us to do anything other than to participate and be in those team sports because, team sports can teach you a lot about life and teach you a lot about yourself, and it builds character, And so, but she just exposed us to all different sports to see what we liked. And as we got older, seeing, what sports we took to, which came more naturally and which sports would yield the greatest opportunities. And so, like a lot of kids in high school, everybody thinks they want to go that plays basketball anyway, think they want to go play in the NBA and all of that. And so my mom just sat me down one day and we just did the math. On any given year, on your typical college basketball team, if they're fortunate, if they have graduating seniors, you might have as many as maybe anywhere from 3 or maybe 4 to 5 scholarships that you give out every year. But you compare that with football, you have anywhere from 18 to 20 to 22 scholarships that you give out each year, sometimes more, depending on how many graduating seniors you have. And so just doing the math, it's plain and simple. There's more opportunity in football. In my family, I come from a bloodline of football players. My dad, all my uncles, my cousins, my older brother all played at the same high school here in Paducah, which is Paducah Tillman High School. And it was in my bloodline. I mean, my brother is 7 years older than me. And so while I'm in the Little League, I would go out to his practices in high school and be able to, watch him and take in the big blue tradition and just following his footsteps and everything. And so he paved the way for me along with other people in my family and outside of my family. And so, I knew where I wanted to go. I knew what I wanted to be, and that was a Tillman Tornado. I wanted to follow my brother's footsteps. And a funny story, I was out there one day because we used the Little League practice after the high school was done practicing. And so I'm out there. The head coach at the time, his name is Alan Cox. He sees me over there waiting. My brother's a senior. He sees me waiting. I got my equipment on, everything except for my helmet. And he called me over. He said, "George, you want to run a play?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yes, sir." And so he puts me in at practice. I never forget that it was called 10-I 28. It's a sweep to the right. My brother's the fullback. And for the first time and the only time in my life, I lined up and ran a play with my big brother. And for a young kid, that was a dream come true. And so I ran the play. Obviously, the nobody tackled me or whatnot, and I was able to score on the play. But even though they let me, in my mind, that gave me vision. It gave me direction. Because of that opportunity that that coach gave me, he set me on a path and a high trajectory to be able to pursue my NFL aspirations. And like I said, that was a dream come true to be able to line up and run a play with my brother. And so those experiences like that help to mold and shape my mindset and my mentality in pursuit of my dreams, of playing on Sundays in the NFL. And, that was kind of like the root of it all. That's where I got started at. Like a lot of kids around playing, Pop Warner or Little League football. And it certainly set me on my way. But not just with athletics. My mom was very stern when it came to academics as well. And so, she taught us that, if you don't perform in the classroom, you don't get a chance to perform on the playing field. And so I took that to heart, was able to come up through high school thereafter. My brother went on to play at the University of Kentucky and went on scholarship to that. I'll tell you a story about that here in a second. But um, I just knew that I wanted to be a Tillman Tornado, just like I had an opportunity to practice with those guys. And so, because I was at such a young age, I was in the sixth grade at the time that my brother was being recruited by the University of Kentucky. And so, I remember the night that the coach came and offered my brother a scholarship. And so it was my mom, myself, my sister, and my brother meeting in the living room with this coach. His name was Joker Phillips. And so he offered my brother the scholarship. My brother excitedly accepted. And as the coach is getting ready to walk out the door, he turns around and he points to me and looks at me. He points at me. He said, "In 6 years, I'll be back to get you." And so just telling that story just brings back, all the emotions that came with that, knowing where I ended up at. But like that moment, that statement that he made to me, um, laid out the framework and the direction that I wanted to go in. I too wanted to play in the SEC and play at what most people deem the highest level of college football, with the most talent, with the most talent in it. And so that night, my life changed as far as how I was going to go about preparing myself for the day that he would come back to get me. And a lot of kids don't get that. I had my brother as my trailblazer and to show me the way and to have a coach tell me, whether he meant it or not, that he was going to come back and get me. Or if he was going to come back and get me, I was going to be ready. I was going to be prepared, and I was going to position myself to be able to get a scholarship offer, just like I was able to witness my brother get offered that same night. And so, Steve, like, I mean, it just, man, like I said, it changed my life. It impacted my life so much that, it put me on a clear path. And I understood that what I do on the practice field or on the playing field is just a small part of that preparation. That preparation also includes my academic excellence in the classroom. It involves me to be a good neighbor, a good human in my neighborhood, in my community. It inspired me to help other people. That way, I'm not on this journey by myself. Bring along my friends, bring along my classmates, my teammates. And so it just gave me a different perspective on my life and on that pursuit and that journey, Steve. And I mean, like I said, it made such a huge difference and such a huge impact on my life, man, that, it really set me on my way.
Wow, there's so much there. What an awesome story. From that moment on that field with your brother, the first and only time, having that one moment too, not just that memory, but the moment that you feel like, okay, this is what I want to do, all the way to when the coach is there telling you, hey, I'm coming back for you, and everything in between. That's just what an awesome way to sort of set the stage early on that this is what you want to do. But
Absolutely.
I have a note here that you had an academic scholarship at the University of Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely. One day in high school, my high school coach was talking to us after practice about, academics and everything. There were some guys that were not performing well or not doing what they were supposed to do in the classroom. And so he was telling us, hey, you better get your education because not everyone can't go to the NFL. And he said, less than 1% of you will make it to the NFL. Less than 1%. Even though the statistics told me that I most likely would not make it, in that moment, no lie, I turned to my friend. His name is David Dobbins. He's on the knee right beside me. I told him, I said, I'm going to be in that less than 1%. So it didn't deter me. I knew that I had to do what I had to do to position myself and to set myself apart from everybody else out here that has the same dreams, goals, and aspirations that I did. And part of that was performing in the classroom. And so because of that, when I was a senior, I only had, even though Kentucky recruited me heavy and I was the top rated receiver in the state of Kentucky, they didn't offer me. Um, but I had some other offers from smaller schools, Mary State University, Southern Illinois, Western Kentucky University, and Southeast Missouri State University, all small colleges here, in the general region of Paducah. But also, I had an opportunity with University of Arkansas to walk on because of my academic performance in the classroom. They didn't have a scholarship to offer me, but told me they could help me, get an academic scholarship due to my academic grades and everything. I had a 3.7 GPA, and I believe, a 22 on my ACT. And so I had a pretty good, package of academics to be able to afford me that opportunity. And so I went to the University of Arkansas because, again, I wanted to play at the highest level. I wanted to play in the SEC. And rather than I passed up opportunities to take those free athletic scholarships, but I bet on myself. I knew the work ethic that I had. I knew the sacrifices that I was willing to make. And I knew that, if I only got a chance, if I got a foot in the door, that I'd force my way in and make a name for myself. I was not going to be outworked. My experience in my youth, when I wasn't playing football, when I wasn't in school, was working on my grandparents' tobacco farm. Friday night I played a football game, 7:30, 8 o'clock Saturday morning. I'm in a tobacco field or I'm in a tobacco barn. And my grandfather exposed us to those experiences because he said that he didn't want us to have to do what he had to do or go through what he had to go through in order to make a living. But that taught me work ethic. It taught me being accountability. It taught me responsibility. It taught me sacrifice. I could have been playing in my neighborhood with my friends. I could have been sitting in the house playing video games, but he chose to take me under his wing along with some of my other cousins and expose us to that. And that work ethic made set me apart from my peers. I've been in 100-degree, very humid temperatures, crawling on my knees, suckering a tobacco plant. I've been out there in the brutal winter, freezing the cold, taking the tobacco out of the barn so we can strip it off the stalk. So I know what it's like to be uncomfortable and to be working in unfriendly environments. And so when I was faced with the opportunity or presented with the opportunity to walk on, I embraced it because hard work was not strange to me. It was not foreign to me. So I embraced it. It was an opportunity, and often opportunities are disguised as hard work. Well, I've been working hard my entire life, and I've been preparing for this moment. So hey, let's bet on myself. I'm gonna go all in. My mom told me, she said, what the academic scholarship didn't cover, we had to come out of pocket. I worked all summer. She used some of her income tax to help pay for that remaining cost, and we did. We were able to get that done. But she told me going into my freshman year that she doesn't think that we can do this long term. And so I knew that I had a short window of time to earn a scholarship. And so I go to Arkansas. I never forget, as a walk on, I was not able to eat dinner after practice with my teammates. I had to leave practice a little early to shower and walk up to the main campus dining hall. And so I never forget those walks where, I was accepted enough to practice, but because of NCAA regulations, I was not able to dine and eat with my teammates. That was frustrating, but it was also humbling, and it taught me a lesson to just appreciate what I have. I might not have it all. I might not have complete access, but I'm thankful that I'm here. I'm thankful for the opportunity I have, and I'm not going to focus on what I don't have because that's only going to distract me from what I'm here to do, and that's to get my education, to earn a scholarship, and to take a step closer to seeing my NFL dreams become a reality. And so I go into that fall. I'm red shirted, so I'm in the weight room building up my strength. The spring comes. A lot of our senior receivers graduated. And I'm a grinder, Steve. I'm one of the first on the practice field, and I guarantee you I'm gonna be the last off the practice field every day because I stayed after and I worked at it. I worked at other things that I need to improve on, and I was able to position myself to get more reps in the spring. By the end of spring practice, I was I guess you could call I was the wide receiver MVP. I was the top receiver coming out of spring, and I still didn't get a scholarship offer at that time. But I go into summer workouts. I'm about 2 weeks from starting the sophomore year, and I get a call from my coach, and he says, "George, we got a scholarship for you. We're going to sign you to one of our athletic scholarships. You no longer have to pay for school anymore." I was overwhelmed. I called my mom. She was at work. She couldn't answer. I called my brother. He was at work. He couldn't answer. So here I am with the most exciting news I've ever received in life with nobody to share it with. And so I had to hold that until later on in the day. And so I came to find out how I got that scholarship opportunity. Uh, there was another recruit. There was another young man that was supposed to come in to Arkansas and be a member of the class of 2000 recruiting class. And that summer, he decided to go to a store and shoplift and got caught. So Arkansas rescinded his scholarship offer and offered it to me because of my diligence, my work ethic, and my hard work. And there's a valuable lesson in that. You know, somebody else's missed opportunity gave me the opportunity of a lifetime. And you have to cherish these moments that you have in life because you never know what you're preparing for. You never know what opportunity comes tomorrow. You just got to keep hammering away. You got to keep working. You got to keep positioning yourself to receive the blessings that are coming to you. But if you give up and you give in to circumstance and you give in to frustration because things are not going the way that you want them to go, um, you'll never see that. You'll never see that opportunity. Quitting has never been an option for me. That's something that my mom always instilled into me. You know, you finish what you start, and I'm so grateful that I stayed in the grind, I stayed in the trenches, and I got that opportunity. And it was a little tough to know that another young man potentially compromised his life dreams for me to get mine. And even though I say that it was tough to understand that, I'm certainly grateful because I was going to be responsible with it, and I knew that for the University of Arkansas to offer me, they trusted me. They saw enough to give me a chance, an even bigger chance, on an even bigger stage. And so, if I'd have let those days of walking from practice early up to that dining hall to frustrate me and to deter me, I wouldn't have had a chance to practice, not only practice, but to dine with my teammates the following year and every other year after that, Steve. And so, like, there's so many valuable lessons in this testimony that, I hope people that out there are listening allow their kids to hear it because, in this day and age, we have a somewhat of a microwave generation where if they don't see instant results, they're turned away or they're just easily deterred. And so you just have to be equally as mentally tough as you are physically tough. And it's just a great story.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, there is so much there, right? The overcoming of adversity to the point where you're kind of unflappable regardless, right? You kind of set your sights and you're going, and whatever else is happening, you're not letting it deter you. I'm sure it only continues to pay dividends for you today, let alone playing in the NFL and everything that's to come. But controlling what you can control too, right? You can't control
Absolutely.
the scholarships that are out there, or who's getting offered, but you can control your effort, your mindset, and what you're doing. There's really no such thing as luck. It's sort of preparation meets opportunity. You weren't lucky enough to
100%.
get it. You worked to be there. And what's to come too, right? So you finally get that scholarship. Well, you only work your way into being a starter for 3 years on the team. I think you lead the team in receptions multiple times. You leave second most receptions in school history. Safe to say that you proved your work ethic there. But you go undrafted and you're signed by the Bills. I'm sorry, you're signed by the Lions. And then, Buffalo kind of quickly swoops in and takes you to where you're going to have the bulk of your career. But do you remember what it felt for you? Because I also believe that you got your diploma while you were at school too. So
Yeah.
do you remember just what your mindset was in terms of, did you think that you were going to get drafted? Was there a plan B because you had the diploma? What was sort of just that whirlwind of then going undrafted, getting signed, and can you just unpack that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just like most college athletes, especially if all conference, or you in the record books with school, in the school history or whatnot. There are aspirations to be drafted. There was no guarantees in the draft. You have to just wait and see it play out. But yes, I mean, even though I graduated and had that degree in my back pocket, I knew that was my contingency plan, and that I was going to lay it all out on the line and be all in this NFL pursuit. And so draft day comes, I don't, draft weekend comes and goes. I don't get my name called. I have some undrafted, free agent opportunities, and I ended up going with the Detroit Lions. But Steve, being a undrafted free agent in the NFL is very similar to being a walk-on in college. And so I'm a firm believer that, God put me in that position as a walk-on at the University of Arkansas in preparation for what life as an undrafted rookie free agent would be in the NFL. And so I'd already been through it. I already know the emotions. I already know what it's going to take from a work ethic standpoint. I know what sacrifices are going to be made because I've been making them my whole life to get to that point. And so rather than being frustrated with not being drafted, I focused on the mindset of, I'm a step closer to seeing my dream come true. Yes, it's preseason. Yes, it's training camp. I got a jersey on with my name on it. I got a helmet with an NFL logo on it. A lot of my high school classmates would die to be in this position. A lot of my college teammates would die to be in this position. And here I am. I'm a step closer. I'm on the doorstep of seeing my dream become a reality. I'm not gonna focus on not being drafted and not getting, crazy amounts of upfront money. I'm here. I'm appreciative of that. This is my time, and so that was my mentality going in.
Yeah, and I don't mean to hit fast forward too hard here, but
No,
I
you're
just
good.
want to I just want to jump to 2007. You're about to start year four. Now, the Bills, of course, had signed you. You've been on their roster, through most of the '04 season, '05, '06, so '07. About to start year four. You've only been on the field a couple of games. Now, I know what you're about to say in terms of not being deterred at all from your dream, but can you walk us through not just that mindset, but switching from wide receiver to defensive back in the NFL when you had never played it before? I mean, come on. That
Yeah,
could not have
hey,
been
that's
easy.
yeah, no, not at all. I mean, I, I I was only with the Lions for the first month of the season. They released me. I go to Buffalo. I'm on the practice squad in Buffalo. And I'm there on the practice squad 2 out of my first 3 years in. You know, anybody who's familiar with that practice squad, guys, exactly what it says. You practice. You know, you don't play. And so my mentality in those years was, well, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday were my game days since I didn't get to play on Sundays. And so I was going to give the starters the blues because I'm not one of these guys that I'm just going to let you catch the ball, let you make the play. No, I got to show that I belong here and I deserve to be here. And so, as a wide receiver and a special team player in those first 3 years, I think I only had a handful of plays. I didn't have a reception, so I didn't have a touchdown if I didn't have a reception. So when the opportunity came in 2007, and Dick Duran was the coach of the Buffalo Bills, and Marv Levy was the GM, the legendary Marv Levy was the GM. And so when they came to me and told me, say, you know, George, we love your work ethic, we love your physical play on the field. You know, we just got a lot of money tied up in the wide receiver room. We'd like for you to consider moving to safety to give yourself the best chance to make the roster this year. And so in my initial thought, I was like, man, I'm a wide receiver. You know, most wide receivers think, hey, I'm a wide receiver, man. I need to catch the ball. You know, I need the ball. You know, but I go home. He told me to go home and think about it, and I did. I went home. I said, I'm 3 years in. I haven't caught a pass. I haven't scored a touchdown. Maybe this is the opportunity. Maybe this is what I need to be able to get on the field and really see my dream come true. And so I go back to work the next day. I talked to Coach Duran. He told me that, you know, he was a running back early in his career and he moved to defensive back and was able to have a extensive career. And I asked him, I said, Coach, is this, you know, I was straight up with him, like, Coach, is this something to, you know, get me out of the way? Or am I going to really have an opportunity to make the team? And so he told me, he said, George, we're going to give you a chance. We're going to give you a true opportunity. This is not something just to move you out of the way. And so I go into training camp. I exchange my playbook. I start working with working on backpedaling as opposed to working on timing with routes. And there was two guys. I had two teammates that were very, very instrumental in my transition. One guy is Jim Leonard, who's now the defensive coordinator for University of Wisconsin Badgers, playing very well right now. But Jim taught me the X's and O's of the defense. He helped me to simplify the playbook so that I could easily recall my assignments, and now I can work on anticipating and not thinking about what my job is on play, you know, any given play. And so Jimmy just does. I mean, especially for a guy that plays your position, to help a guy that is going to be competing with you for that position. You know, you don't find too many guys that are selfless and are preservers of the game of football, and are true brothers in that football fraternity like Jim Leonard. And without him, I know my transition probably wouldn't even have lasted as long as it did, because he definitely helped me to simplify that playbook. And then the other guy, his name was Kawaki Thomas. He played most of his career in Jacksonville, but he came to Buffalo toward the end of his career, and we played together for, I believe, 2 or 3 seasons. And so Kawaki helped me with my technique, my backpedaling, and being able to read the quarterback and everything like that. And so, but as I was in that transition, I said, okay, I'm having to learn a new playbook, learning new techniques. What do I have to help shorten this learning curve and to give me the best chance? Well, I played offense. I played a receiver. I know alignments. I know route depth based on the quarterback drop. I know the weaknesses of the coverage and how they're going to attack them. And so I just coupled all that offensive history that I had, applied it to the defensive scheme that I was learning, and then I also applied the technique that Kawaki was teaching me. And so with all that conglomerate coming together, was able to drastically shorten my learning curve. And so I was able to make enough plays to keep to stay on the roster throughout the entire training camp of 2007. Get to the final cut. I don't get a call that day, and I'm like, I think I made it. I don't know, but I think I made it. We go into we go into the first meeting, and like you don't really know that you made the roster really until the Wednesday of week one, because you can still make a bunch of roster moves, in the 48 hours of final cuts and 4 o'clock on Wednesday. And so I go in on Wednesday, 4 o'clock comes, I'm still there. So like now I know that I'm on the team. I make the team as the fifth safety. You normally keep four safeties, but because of my special teams production, they kept me on as a fifth safety. I remember going in week one, I was inactive. So here I am. I've made this transition. I go in week one. I'm expecting to play. I'm not active. I'm not gonna lie. I was let down because I'm like I've done everything they've asked me to do, but now I'm not dressing. Even though I was a little down, I was not deterred. I still was appreciative of one. I'm on the roster. I got an active roster check first and foremost. But it's a long season, and if you know anything about the NFL, it's 100% injury risk, and so you just got to continue to hammer away. And so I said, okay, we're just going to get back on the horse. We're not going to worry about it. Let's just approach the game like you are the starter. Take notes, watch your film, prepare like you're going to play. And so by the fifth game of the season, Steve, both guys in front of me hurt. The starter breaks his ankle. He's on IR for the year. Jim Leonard was the backup. He strained his calf muscle in week 4 and was not able to play in week 5. And so within the course of 4 weeks, I went from being inactive, the fifth safety, to now I'm being the starter going into that game that week. Just so happens it's Monday Night Football, the biggest stage outside of the Super Bowl in the NFL. Monday Night Football is the only game of the night. Everybody plans their day around Monday Night Football. Not only is it Monday Night Football, I grew up a Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm playing the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football for my first career start. And so my mom, my brother, my sister, my 7th grade teacher and her family all come into town for the game. I keep the fact that I'm starting that game a complete secret. I don't tell them because I don't want them to tell people. I don't want phone calls. I don't want that. I already have enough pressure on me. You know what I'm saying? My first start as a defensive back, I haven't played defensive back since high school at Tillman. And so I don't tell my family until I get ready to leave to go to the stadium. They're excited. They're bonkers. They're geeked. And so we get there. Stadium is just electrical. Bills fans love to tailgate, so they're liquored up and wired up, for Monday Night Football. And we get out there. Third play of the game, Romo tries to hit Jason Witten over the middle, overthrows him. I catch the ball, get my first interception. I got to switch the defense to get my first reception. You know what I'm saying? My first time getting the ball in my hands, I got to move the defense to get there. That's, coming from a former wide receiver. And so my teammates block for me. They escort me into the end zone. I get a pick 6. Now, Steve, would you believe me if I told you that before I went to the game, I took a nap and I dreamed that play? No lie, I dreamt that play. And when I woke up from that dream, I immediately got on my knees and I prayed to God, Lord, if you let me see this dream come true, I'll offer the ball up to you as a sacrifice. And so if you go back and you look at the footage of that interception, you will see as soon as I get into the end zone, that's the first thing that I do. I offer the ball up to the heavens. And that's me making good on my promise to him when I prayed that. And so, but that kicked off the second part of my NFL career. That was really the realization of my NFL dreams coming true. And that's about a 16-year gap from the birth of that dream to seeing that dream become a reality. That's a 16-year gap of blood, sweat, and tears, of wins and losses, of successes and failures, of the good and the bad. You know, that's a long time. That's a long journey. But you know what? In that one moment, that made those 16 years all worth it. All worth it, man. It was, man, it was, people ask me what that moment felt like. It felt like a little piece of heaven because that was for my city of Paducah, Kentucky. You know, there's a lot of people that had a lot of goals and dreams and aspirations just as I did, and they were living through me. It's a blue collar city. I was a blue collar athlete. So that moment was just as big for my community as it was for me in my career.
That's wild. That is. I mean, do you sometimes just think about it and just be like, how? The odds of this ever happening the way it did were so. It's like hitting the lottery seems much more likely than what you went through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, I just know that for that to happen, you know, God truly has that favor on my life, and He prepared me. He put me through the test to see if I would be able to handle it. Would I be responsible with it, and or would I be selfish with it? You know, I always prayed the same prayer every night growing up was, Lord, that you know, if you bless me to see my dreams come true, I won't be selfish with that blessing. And so I'm a firm believer that God has blessed me in order to be a blessing to others. And that's why so much of my life has been dedicated to service, you know, because I know how fragile life is. I know how difficult life can be. You know, I've been able to, you know, come from a small kid in Paducah, Kentucky, working out in my grandparents' tobacco fields, to playing on just about every NFL field there is. You know, and that's you know, a great deal of responsibility comes with that. You know, I'm a trailblazer for other people, just like my brother was for me. And with being in on that platform comes with a great deal of responsibility. And I understand why God put me through so much to test me and to ensure that I would be responsible with that platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to switch gears a little bit here, I wanted to ask you about two characters that you played with in Buffalo. It was Marshawn Lynch before everyone knew the beast that emerged out in Seattle, and also Terrell Owens. Could you just talk a little bit about each of those guys? Did you see the same guy that the world got to know when Marshawn went to Seattle, and also how much did T.O. shake things up when he landed in Buffalo?
Well, with Marshawn first, Marshawn's a great guy. One of my favorite teammates of all time. Hard working, a grinder, and one thing about Marshawn, if he lets you in and he loves you with every ounce of his being. If you cross him and show him that you're not loyal or you don't respect him, he's not gonna touch you with a 100-yard stick. And so, but you knew where you stood with Marshawn, and he brings passion, he brings energy, he brings grit, and a sense of toughness to the game and to the locker room. And just one of the best guys that I've been around and was able to spend my time with in the NFL. He's truly a beast. He lives up to the name Beast Mode. And even when he went to Seattle and had to play against them, you got to bring your lunch pail and your hard hat when you come to tackle that guy. You know, his legs keep moving and keep moving and keep moving. You got to hold on until the whistle is over. Whether you think you're on the ground or you're trying to get them to the ground, just hold on, drive your legs, but don't let go until the whistle blows. And so, but very fun-loving guy on the field and off the field, but just a genuinely good man. Very productive on the field. In my opinion, he's a future Hall of Famer. but he cares about his family. He cares about his community out there in Oakland, California. And he's been equally, or matter of fact, I'll say he's been even more productive off the field in his philanthropic efforts, to make a difference in the lives of the kids in the Oakland community. So I can't say enough good things about Marshawn. He is who he is, and that's what people love. That's why you love him. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't give you political correctness. He says what he's thinking, and you can appreciate that because it's not too often in sports that you get a guy that genuinely says what he's thinking and what he feels, with no remorse, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not. And I think he was a breath of fresh air for NFL fans, and that's why they took to him and loved him so much. But great all around guy. I can't say enough good things about Marshawn. T.O. came to Buffalo, I think right after Dallas. Immediately, one of the things that jumped out at me was his work ethic. Um, he worked hard. He was a grinder. He was already a Hall of Famer at that time in his career. Everyone knew that. But he was a grinder. He worked hard, and it was just laughing and seeing because we never practiced with a guy who just wore tights and didn't cover up or whatnot. So that was funny and an adjustment to make. But T.O. was, even though we laughed and joked or whatnot, it was all in good fun and good nature. But yeah, he definitely bought. He made other guys elevate their work ethic and to raise their level of play just by seeing him at the stage of his career continue to put in those hours and that grind to stay at the top of his game. So I mean, like I said, he definitely brought a different type of presence to the locker room. He brought star power. He brought a following. T.O.'s a NFL character who draws attention from the media, and so there was definitely more media presence when T.O. came to Buffalo. And I think that just great gave us more exposure as a team just because of him being on the team.
Definitely. Oh, absolutely. I can imagine. I just want to talk about, getting to the end of your career. Ultimately, just a couple of things here. The decision to leave Buffalo and to sign with Tennessee. What was it? How hard was that? Why Tennessee? Was it just that it was closer to home, and ultimately the decision to hang it up? If you could just sort of talk about the last stage of your NFL life.
Yeah, for sure. Well, at the time when my 2012, I had one more year left on my contract. Um, and in that last year, just like Jim Leonard did for me, we had drafted a young safety, Denor Cersei, and I was given the responsibility to help bring him along and prepare him to essentially take over my job. And I can't say that I was comfortable doing that because hey, we're all competitors. We all want to continue to play and not have to take a back seat, especially as a veteran. But I thought back to Jim Leonard and his sacrifice and his investment into me, and I said if I want to pay forward the investments that Jim made in me, and I want to be a preserver of the game of football, then I too must prepare Denoris to take over. That's just what it is. And so I wanted Denoris to have an opportunity to be able to see his NFL dreams come true and to be able to make a name for himself and provide for his family. And so I poured into him just like Jim Leonard poured into me. And so at the end of 2012, Buddy Nix was the GM. He called me. I remember I was in LA. He called me as soon as I saw the 716 area code come up on my number on my phone. I knew what it was. And Buddy Nix is on the phone telling me how much they loved me and appreciated me. And I told Buddy, I said, Buddy, you don't have to sugarcoat this, man. I know the business. I know the game. Just shoot me straight. He told me they were going to move in a different direction. They were going to release me. And that was fine. Um, I ended up going to visit the Detroit Lions and the Tennessee Titans. Both offered me contracts, and I naturally chose the Tennessee Titans. Nashville is less than 2 hours from my hometown. And if this was going to be my last contract, then I wanted to spend it closer to my family, so that my family, so that my family and my hometown community could see me play. And so I go to the Titans. I moved to Nashville, um, and spent my last 2 years there. Great, drastically increased my ticketing budget because people were calling, every week. And so, but like I said, I wanted to give, my family and other members of the community the opportunity to be able to see me play. Many of them did get a chance to while I was in Buffalo. And so, but my last 2 years in Tennessee was trying. Um, I didn't get a chance to make the playoffs in Buffalo, and I was hoping to get that opportunity by going to Nashville. Um, but in the 2 years I was in Nashville, I had two head coaches. There was a lot of turnover at quarterback. When I first got there, we had Jake Locker. Fitzpatrick followed me from Buffalo. He was there, uh, starter for a bit, and then my last year, they decided under Ken Wisenhunt, they decided to go with the rookie quarterback before right around the bye week, and so I knew that by making that decision, they were essentially throwing in the towel for the season. Um, I had a high ankle sprain. I played my last year. I had a high ankle sprain on my right ankle, and I had a strained Liz Frank joint on my left foot. So like I'm hobbling around, fighting through pain, not really playing up to my standards because of the injuries and everything. If you don't have, healthy feet and ankles, you're not going to be able to have much mobility and power. And so I remember fighting through those injuries. And at the end of the season, at that last game, I sat in my locker a while because I had the same feeling that I felt when I played my last game in Buffalo. I knew I was going to get released in Buffalo before they called me, just because of the writings on the wall if you're paying attention. And so I had a very similar feeling when I was in Tennessee. And so I spent a moment to cherish that and to reflect. Um, and so I go through my exit meetings. They tell me they would like to bring me back, but there's no guarantees. No different than the draft. You have to wait and see how things play out. And so my contract was up. I only signed a 2 year in Tennessee, and so they didn't call me back. And I spent a year, getting healthy, working out in an effort to be prepared if a team did call. But training camp came, no calls. First half of the season came, no calls. And I'm in the weight room one day. I'm in the gym lifting one day. It's like the first week of December. So I've worked out since February all the way through December, and nobody called, no tryouts, no nothing. I'm calling my agent like, what's up? Like I can't even get a workout, and so on and so forth. But I was in there. I was about to do some power cleans, and a thought came over me and was like, what are you doing? Nobody's called to this point. If they haven't called by now, they're not going to call. If you know the business of the NFL, when December comes, um, contenders will fortify their roster with guys to help in their playoff push. Most of those guys have come from other teams that have been released, not from guys off the street. For the teams that are not going into the playoffs in December, you're building up your practice squad with guys or your roster with guys that you want to have on your team for next year. And so with me knowing the business of the NFL, it dawned on me that my NFL time had come to an end. And with the NFL, I called. I'm like, do I need to file paperwork or whatnot? But they informed me that once you're, not on the roster for a year, they automatically, put you into the retired or former players list or whatnot. And so that's how it that's how it came to an end for me. There was no cheering crowd. There was no flashing lights. There was no, last embrace with teammates and coaches. It was, in my head in that moment in the gym and realizing that, my window had closed. Um, it was tough because we all want to go out our own way. We all want to choose when that time comes and not be pushed or forced into that. And so, you know, that transition is something that all players will have to face, some by force and some by choice. Um, and that transition began immediately. You know, it's it's a grieving process. Anybody who's ever been through it knows it. Some days are better than others. Some days are dark and pessimistic. Other days are shiny and upbeat. But, it's no different than losing a family member or a loved one, somebody you've spent your whole life around. That's a part of me that died that day and was never coming back. And that was something that I had to come to terms with. And it makes it more challenging to know that you were forced into it and you didn't choose that. And so that transition can be challenging. There's more bad days than good days. I'll be very transparent and honest with you. But through my family supporting me, through prayer and finding things to fill that void, help to smooth that transition out. It's such a shock to your system. But you don't realize how much of a robot you are. In the NFL, your life is laid out for you on 5 sheets of paper every week. They tell you when you're going to sleep, when you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, how long you got to eat, when you're going to shower, when you're going to work out, what you're going to do for your workout, when you're going to travel, when you're going to get treatment. You're a robot. They upload the schedule into you every Monday. They upload the game plan into you every Monday. They'll update it on Friday. That's what the life of an NFL player is. I don't want to simplify it or dumb it down to that, but that's the closest example I can give you. We're robots, and we were in a bubble. We're protected and shielded from the rest of society. Life as a professional athlete is different than life for anybody else. And so, coming to the realization in that moment that I get no more software updates, I'm outside of the bubble now, was challenging. It was difficult. But at the time, my 2-year-old son had just relocated to Atlanta, where I live at. He was a healthy distraction for me. So the time that I was spending dedicating my life to football, I was dedicating to be a father. Perfect distraction. And then toward the end of my career, I acquired my grandparents' farm, the same tobacco farm that I grew up on, working in. I acquired it. I bought that from them. And so I was sitting up one day. I said, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And what do I have to get started? I said, I got my farm. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I said, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to start working on my farm. And so my farm has become my therapy. It's been very therapeutic for me. It's my place of peace. I live in the heart of Atlanta, around the hustle and bustle of city life. When I pull up at my farm and I cross my property line, my state of mind completely changes. I no longer hear blowing horns and the sound of traffic and the sound of city life. Now I hear nature. I hear the birds chirping. I hear the crickets chirping. I hear the frogs croaking. I hear the leaves, the wind blowing through the leaves of the trees, the buzz of the busy bees working around me. and it's been so therapeutic for me. Fatherhood and farm life helps me to complete that transition and to grieve over that part of me that will never come back again. And so it's funny that you started off the interview asking me about my time back in Buffalo. Ever since that last day in the locker room when I took my uniform off for the Buffalo Bills, this past Sunday was my first time going back. So it's been more than 7 years, almost 7 years, since I went back to that place. And so that's why there was the flurry of emotions
Oh
of
yeah.
knowing how I felt when I left versus how I felt now coming back and being a former player. And so, but life has its curves, it has its peaks, it has its valleys. But I know that through every step of my life, God has been with me. He's been directing me. He's been covering me. And through this transition, He's definitely helped me position me to have an even greater impact on my community, um, on my family, and to be able to use that platform for good and while being able to still, make a living and be able to have something to look forward to each and every day. The farm gives me structure, just like football gave me structure. I have a schedule, just like the seasons of the year gives me a schedule, just like the schedule in the NFL gave me. And so there's a lot of parallels between what I'm doing now and what I've done in the past. And just like being a walk on prepared me for being a free agent and rookie undrafted free agent in the NFL, all those experiences helped prepare me for what I'm doing now, for being a father, for being a leader in my community, for being a farmer, and being a member of the business community. And so all those experiences before now has prepared me for where I'm at in my life. And I'm so grateful for those experiences, for those people that have invested so much into me, and for the opportunities to make a difference in the lives of those that I came in contact with and to try to leave a lasting impression. And so I have no regrets. I have no ill will. You know, life has dealt me a good hand, and I'm playing this hand out the best way I can, the best way I know how. And so, I'm eternally grateful for all that God has blessed me with.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that you've played the hand pretty well. I just want to underscore your philanthropic efforts, because on top of the things that you've said and what your mindset is, we haven't even talked about the foundation. So, but as we wrap this up here, I just want to make sure that you get the credit that you deserve, because it's going. It probably even predates Buffalo, but I mean, you have a history of always, time after time, helping kids, and you have a foundation. So I mean, are you still actively working with that? What are, and even if it's not the foundation, do you have any idea what the next steps, anything going on with the farm? What's the future look like for George Wilson today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my I was exposed to service at a young age. Sundays after church, we always went home with my grandparents. But oftentimes, before we went home, we would go visit the sick members of our church at home and have devotion with them in their living rooms, singing, praying with them. Having communion with them. And then also we would go to nursing homes and do the same thing with people that stayed in the nursing homes. And so like the examples that my grandparents showed me was how selfless they were and how much they poured into other people. Oftentimes, when people get older, the family forgets about them or don't come around as often as they normally would. And so that gave me a mindset of helping fellow mankind. And so I carried that to Arkansas and to Buffalo. And in Buffalo, I worked with the community relations staff very close, and in exposing me to several opportunities, they gave me a vision of what I wanted my foundation to be. And so in 2010, I started the George Wilson Safety Foundation. Safety being a position I played in the NFL. It's also an acronym for my mission statement, which is saving adolescents from everyday trials of youth. And so I love kids. Kids are brutally honest. You're never going to have to guess what they're thinking or what they're feeling, whether it's about you as a football player or you as a person. And I can appreciate that. You know, adults oftentimes can be very deceptive and manipulative, but kids are very honest, and that helped to keep me humble and keep me grounded. And so most of my programming caters to them over the years. I've done my football camp here in Paducah. This year was our 12th year. We'll continue that, into the future. I did leadership retreats for 8 years. I would go take kids from my hometown down to a YMCA campgrounds in Nashville, Tennessee. And so I did that for 8 years. I didn't do it last year, but the reason I didn't do it is because with my farm, I want to build the retreat at my farm. That way I can service more kids more often and not have to do it one time a year for one group of kids. And so my vision is expanding, and I hope to build that out. Well, I'm making plans now to build that out to be able to have those same experiences out at my farm. Um, and so, as we're currently kind of trying to revamp the programming to try to incorporate more of the farm experience into some of that service to our youth. And so this year, this summer, I had the Boys and Girls, the Oscar Cross Boys and Girls Club here in Paducah, bring some of their youth out to work in the garden. You know, they planted tomatoes and watermelons, and were able to see that gardening process from seed to sprout to harvest, and be able to, afford them that experience to kind of see and learn, where their food comes from and everything. And so I look to do more things like that, more hands-on experiences, more leadership development, exposing them to opportunities to develop their life skills, and just to equipping them with the tools that I think made a huge difference in my life and in my journey of pursuing my dreams and everything. And so the foundation is geared toward, first off, health and wellness. If you're not physically and mentally and emotionally well, your pursuit and your journey to your dreams will be that much more difficult. And so trying to service them from a health and wellness standpoint is a main focus of ours. And also, like I said, leadership development is another main component. Just trying to expose them with many opportunities to gain insight and attributes that I think can make a huge difference in their lives as they grow up and become adults and start their families and pursue their life goals and everything. And so that's what makes me happy, Steve. Like I told you in the beginning, I prayed that same prayer every day. God, if you bless me to see my dreams come true, I won't be selfish with my blessings. And I believe that I've been put in this position, and I've been called to service. And nothing brings me more joy than a smile on a kid's face when they realize or learn something for the first time, or that they hear me and believe me when I say that I love you and that I care about you and I want you to do good. I want to see you do good. I'm going to invest into you like others invested into me. And to see somebody say that they love them and they believe in them and that you can do whatever you set your mind to, like, it just warms my heart and it fills me up with so much joy. And I'm so grateful to have an opportunity to be in the position of influence, on people, but especially on the youth that I come into contact with each and every day.
That's awesome. So cool. George, I like to end the show on the gauntlet. So I hope you're ready. I got a couple quick hitter questions for you. I need to know what's most important. Is it having the number one offense or the number one defense?
To me, defense wins championships. The 2000 Ravens showed you that. I think many of their games, their offense only gave them, 7, 9, or 10 points. To me, defense wins championships for sure.
Definitely. Now, Do you have one coach or one player that you wish you would have had a chance to line up alongside of or play for?
Um, I'll say that. Yeah, I wish I could have played with Tom Brady. Hey, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. He gives his team a chance to win year in and year out. Um, but being a division opponent, you learn to grow to not like the guy because you go against him. But hey, I'm retired now. The guy does it. The guy does it year in and year out. The New England Patriots are where they are each and every year, not just because of Bill Belichick, but it's the execution of Tom Brady. Coaches can put a great game plan together, but players got to go out there and execute it, and he does it better than anyone else has. And so it'd have been great to get a chance to get some jewelry with being a member of his team.
Definitely. And you hit on something that's a perfect segue to my next question. What's most important? Is it the players or is it the scheme?
Uh, that's a tough one. But I'll say this: I think it's the players. I really do. Because, like I said, anybody can come up with a great scheme, but if you don't have the players with the physical and mental capacity to be able to go out and execute it and be disciplined, play in and play out, a game plan or a scheme is just paper. You need the players to go out there and execute the job and to do it at a high level that is, higher and better than the opponent. So to me, definitely the players.
And I'm inclined to agree. Now, the very last one that I have, and I think it's the most important one. What's the best one piece of advice that you could give to a young kid who looks at you and everything that you did, and they're just like, man, how do I become the next you, George Wilson?
Work hard. Work hard. Have a great attitude. Always look on the good side of things. Don't focus on the bad. Control what you can control. You said it earlier. Don't spend time worrying about stuff that's out of your control. You can't affect what people think or say about you. You can impact it, but you can't really, have a say so in it. But work hard, have a positive attitude, because if you don't work hard, you don't position yourself for those opportunities, you're not going to get them anyway. Attitude wise, help other people, be kind to people, be a good person on the field and off the field. Do good to others, good will come back to you. And then be willing to make sacrifices. You can't get anything in life without giving something up. Anything of value in life is going to cost you something. Process your cost and benefit analysis and be willing to make that sacrifice. Learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Don't worry about something that you can't control. But being uncomfortable, growth is uncomfortable. Whether you're talking about growth of our bodies in our teenage years, or, your knees, your back, your joints hurt because your body's growing. Growth is uncomfortable. But life, you're going to always be growing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. You're going to constantly be growing. So embrace that change and learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I know that's a lot to take in, but as they get older, as they get more experience in this thing we call life, you'll get a better perspective and better understanding of what I mean when I say learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable and be able to thrive in those moments and never be distracted of what your end goal is. I mean, hey man, I've lived it. I'm not telling you anything I haven't done or experienced myself. You do those things, I can't guarantee that it's going to happen, but I tell you, you'll have a chance. You'll definitely have a chance.
And that sums it up. I mean, that's you're walking, living proof of it. And George, I just want to thank you so much for the time. I was just trying to pull it up now. Your Instagram handle for anyone that wants to follow you, is it GW the Cultivator?
GW the Cultivator. Hey, I'm a farmer cultivating my land, but I'm also trying to cultivate my community and the lives that I come in contact with each and every day.
I love it. Enough said. Well, George, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Anytime, brother. I appreciate the opportunity.